Okay, hi guys. I'm going to try something a little new this week, so give me 1 second to get started here. Then we will get going. So I know originally I said I wanted to talk today about fundraiser incentives, and I made a boo-boo. I must have been asleep when I said that at first because, oh yes, here I found what I wanted to do. Share, give me 1 second, I'm going to share this into the group. Anyway, I made a boo-boo because I really want to talk about fundraising in 2018 and what you need to be doing and what you don't need to be doing and how you can avoid mistakes. And I'm just going to share this into my Facebook group, which for PTA and PTO leaders, which if you have not joined yet, boy, are you missing out. So you need to head on over there. Actually, right after this broadcast. And so the reason you want to do that, I so cannot multitask with this kind of stuff. Sorry about that. Is because there's like over 3,000 people, 3,000 awesome PTA and PTO volunteers and leaders, just like yourself in that group. And oh my gosh, one, it's free. Two, there's 3,000 people. So you have 3,000 different minds to pick, 3,000 different ideas for family fun events or carnival or fundraisers. You have access to people beyond your immediate group. So it's like stinking awesome. So yeah, you want to join that. So I think you can do that. Let me double check here by just scrolling. Yup. If you go to scroll up to the top of the page or hit visit group, the name of the group is PTA PTO Superstar Leaders. And I'm going to turn my screen so I don't look at myself because I don't like to see myself on two different screens. One screen is hard enough to deal with. But anyways, you definitely want to join that group. I don't think there's anybody who's joined that group and been like, it's a waste of time. No, my friend, I have daily prompts to get you going. I share in my blog articles so that you always are learning. And it's not like school, but like, yeah, do you need to up your game in fundraising or in PTO land? Yeah, sometimes. And it got a little dark, so let me adjust that. No, that's not good. Okay, anyway, we're just gonna get going. So sorry about the lighting. This is not a professional thing by any means, and it snowed, so it's extra bright and it's hard to deal with. So anyway, let's get going now that I have it shared into the awesome Facebook group. So who am I? I am Christina Heideck. I am a PTA volunteer, just like you, my friend. The difference is that I have been volunteering for a really long time. This is, I think, my 8th year. I stepped up into a leadership position pretty much off the bat. Just as a new kindergarten mom, by the end of the year, I was already president, so it's a little crazy. But anyway, you can hear more of that story when you join the group, so go join the group if you're not part of it. And I started this PTO Answers because I felt like there just needed to be more information out there for PTO leaders and PTA leaders to help them guide their groups, because PTOs can be really good or they can be really bad. And so I want to help people avoid that the bad stuff, and let's just get to the good stuff. So, like I said earlier in this broadcast, today we're going to be talking about like fundraising in 2018 and what I think that you need to be doing to up your game in 2018. And so let me just dive right on in. And so we're going to talk about mistakes, because I think a lot of people know what to do, but they don't know necessarily what not to do. So one of the things, actually, let me take a step back, because earlier today I was having like breakfast with some girlfriends, and I was talking with this one mom. She's like super awesome. She's been involved with PTA or PTO stuff, either as just like going to things to support her nieces and nephews, or as a leader and a volunteer for like 20 years. And it was really awesome to talk with her, because in our district we have this event every It's like every year. So it's a district-wide fundraiser, and it's like a night at the races. I know night at the races are really popular, but I don't really like night at the races. I've gone a couple times and I just don't enjoy it. And I said to my friend, I said, oh, that is awesome that you are still doing it and still volunteering, because this is her final year, because her youngest child is a senior. And I said, totally awesome that you're doing it, but I gotta admit, I really hate that event. I hate it so much. And not that I won't be supportive, but my grand idea was to replace it. And I think that this is a mistake. This kind of goes to a mistake that I see PTAs and PTOs doing. It's that they just do the same thing year after year. And they don't recognize that there could be an easier way to raise money for their group. There could be something that is attracts a wider audience so that they get greater participation. Because like I said, I've been to this night at the races like 2 or 3 times now. And I just said to her, I go, I'm not going. Like when it gets switched, I'll return. But I'm just not going, because it's not my idea of a fun night. And so instead of being just a totally negative Nelly about it, my solution was to come up with an alternative. And I think I've talked about this before, but my alternative event is a district-wide talent show. And not that it's a competition at all, but just a talent show, because in our district, we have a lot of talented kids, and I'm sure the same is, totally true for you, your school or your school district too. And I just don't think that kids have enough opportunities to really show their stuff. And so I thought, how fun would that be to put on a district-wide talent show? So I didn't pitch it to do it right away. So what I'm kind of doing it kind of guerrilla warfare. I started one last year at the elementary school, and I should have asked the parents I saw there today if they're going to repeat it again this year, because I'm no longer at the elementary school since my kids aged out. And this year I'm going to do it at the junior high. So then I'll have done it at 2 different schools, and I can talk about, what the attendance was, how easy it was to run as far as like the back end stuff, because there's a lot of logistical concerns when you're dealing with kids in an open mic, right? So those concerns need to be addressed, especially from the administrator's point of view. You need to make sure that they're cool with this. But my hope is that eventually we can get rid of night at the races, because it's, like I said, not my thing, and to get something that is new. So that would be like the number one thing I would suggest to you and your PTO this year, is to take a look at what you have planned between now and June, if you're doing any more fundraising for the year. And probably the plans are already set in place. You probably should go ahead and just stick with what you have already planned. But if there's something new, if you don't have anything planned, but you need to plan something, consider doing something new. Not radically new, not new for the sake of doing something new, but like take a look at, if you've repeated the same event for a couple years now, look at the history of the event. And you have to consider like how much time it's taken you to prepare for the event, put on for the event, and clean up for the event. And look at how much money you're making from the event. It might not be worth it. In the case of the night at the races that I referred to, generally when all was said and done, after all of the volunteer work and the many, many hours of getting this huge extravaganza put on, the PTA was netting something like $2,000. And we're talking like 3 months of work for dozens of people. And that's another reason I'm not very supportive, because I'm like, that is way too much work for way too little money. So take a look at that. Don't be making the same mistakes that you have in the past. Take this new year as an opportunity to look at what you've done and see how you can improve upon it. It could be a change of timing, because that's always a consideration. People always have a lot of things going on. So maybe your event wasn't successful because it conflicted with another event in town. But it could be that people are done with it. It could be that it's too niched down, that it's just not interesting enough for the intended audience. So you need to be aware of some of those things. The other thing that I would love to see you do in 2018 is to stop working with crappy fundraising companies And what I mean by crappy fundraising companies, and I've certainly had experience with them. I was fundraising chair for 1 year, and I actually managed to steer clear of the really rotten ones, but you know which ones I'm talking about. The ones they pressure you into signing a contract, and then once they have you signed, they promise the world, and then once they have you signed, you don't really hear back from them. You have questions and they're not answering them. So this is where you have to do your homework. You really have to interview these fundraising companies and these fundraising representatives, and to make sure that they will actually be able to fulfill everything that they're telling you. And the other thing you need to do is when you get the contract from the representative, read it. Read it. I know people think, oh, I can just get out of it because it's like tiny little legal print. I'm an attorney. No, you can't. So you need to read the agreement front and flip that sucker over in the back so you can read the it's called boilerplate language, because they put it on the back. Their attorneys have advised them to do that. Anything in the contract is going to favor the fundraising company. So if there's an issue, it's not going to fall in your favor. It's going to fall in the fundraiser company's favor, which probably means that your PTO is going to be out of money. So you really need to look at the terms. If you don't like any of the terms, you can grab your pen and cross it out. I know that sounds crazy, but you totally can. You're probably going to freak out your rep. They're probably going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, you are going off script here. Go off script. If there's something that they mentioned when you were talking about, like, let's say for prizes, like who's going to split the cost in prizes or incentives, make sure that's written down. Make sure that it's written down that they're going to come and do your assembly at this time on this date at this time. Like, you have to be super specific, because if you don't write it down, they're not obligated to do it. So they can do it if they want, but you have no recourse if they don't do it. You have a lot easier time, especially if you need to go over their head to talk to their supervisor because they are just like not getting back to you. They can be like, hey, these are the terms of our agreement, and you're not holding up to them. So the other thing that I want you to do is I want you to put on your big girl pants when you're talking to these fundraiser reps, and don't just instantly give in. Like, really look at the terms of the fundraisers. Are they going to be optimal for your group? And when I'm talking about the terms, I'm talking about the products. Are they actually products that your group is going to want to feel good about selling, and that people in your school community are going to readily buy? If the answer is no, keep looking. Look at how, and ask questions about how the products come to you. Do you need to sort orders, or do they come pre-sorted? Like, that is totally important. I know I've shared this story before about the fun shaped pasta fundraiser that I didn't do, but I helped like sort the orders. Oh my God, they had like a gajillion and one different shapes, which was lovely. It appealed to a really wide audience, but then all of the pasta it wasn't sorted by order. So you get a box and it was all like ballerina pasta. And then then you had a box of like shamrock pasta, and then soccer pasta, and then autumn leaves pasta, and then American flag pasta. And it just kept going and going. And so we had to pick the orders. And we're PTA moms. We're not like in the business of like retail sorting. That's not our deal. And so that one was humorous because we had a very small room to do this, and we were jumping and stretching over boxes, and we were leaving gaps of like, so we could get around the room. But it was really unpleasant at the time. It makes for a great story now, and I'm thinking about who I spent that day with, and it was fun, but it was a lot of work and so not worth it. So not worth it. There is also so you have to look at, mentioned the quality of the product, but then like delivery. There was also this other really popular food item. It's like a dessert item. And I said, well, thinking about back to the pasta, I said, how does it come to us? And they said, well, all of the apple kind comes together and all of the cheese kind comes together. And I said, ooh, no, like, is there an option that I can pay to have it pre-sorted? And they're like, no, it just comes to you like that and you have to deal with it. And I was like, okay, thank you for the information. I don't think this is the right fit for my group, because you have to look at like, it can't just be you as fundraising chair or you as PTO president sorting all of the orders. Like, you're going to need other help. And you have to look at and be really realistic about how much help you're going to get at the time you need it. If you have a school and where a lot of the volunteers and leaders are also working full time, then someone's going to have to take off work to accept the 3 p.m. delivery time for the truck, for all of the orders, right? Now think, is that going to work? May or may not, depending on your school and who's in charge of stuff, but you for sure need to think about that. So also, I know I mentioned this before, but make sure that they can deliver to the right place and the right time. I know one time I was dealing with a company and they couldn't deliver when it would be most convenient for my group, and for convenience for my group would have been during fall conferences because parents and families were coming to the building anyway, and we thought, oh, well, then they can just stop by the gym and get whatever they needed. But they couldn't do that, and so we had to have another night, I think it was like the following week or the week before, and it was harder to get families to come in. So it's not really a mistake, but that's like a best practice, is to look at a popular time when people are going to be coming. Now, the downside to doing it like that is that the volunteers, they miss out on conference times, right? So I had to pick a different conference time for my children because I was busy handing out orders. So you have to be cognizant that you have kids at this building. So, if you can get volunteers with older kids that are in your building, that they can come in and fill in for a little bit or get somebody else to swap around. But I know conference night is crazy. So it's, a little bit of figuring, a little bit of logistical work. Okay, so the other thing when you're working with a fundraiser rep, you have to like them. You legit have to like them. So the year after I took over, or the year that I took over, the year right before I took over, there was this fundraising rep, and she was really hardcore. Like, she wanted everything to be done her way, including at pickup, even though she wasn't really doing the work. She wanted it set up a certain way, even though she wasn't going to be handing out the orders. And she so irritated me that I didn't want to work with her, because I thought, this is not a pleasant experience. And essentially, you can give your money to whoever you want to, right? Because it's joint partnership. You guys are working together to earn money for both groups, both your PTO and the fundraising company. So make sure you like them, because you're going to have to talk with them a lot. Don't discount this. It should not be a horrible, horrible experience for you as the fundraising chair, just so your group can make money. Like, it needs to be good for you. So remember that. Take care of yourself in that way. And before you sign the contract with the fundraising company, make sure that the representative has good communication skills. So, again, maybe this is me being picky, but I don't like to see a whole lot of typos in communications, because I just think that means that people are rushed. And if they're rushed, then maybe they don't have time for me when I really need them. So be aware of that kind of stuff too. Make sure that they're getting back to you, because if they're not getting back to you before you've signed the contract, before they have your money, oh honey, they are so not going to be emailing you later. Like, you're going to have to be chasing them down, and you're busy enough. You just don't need one more thing to be doing. So make sure that you're not signing up for a fundraiser with a rep that you have to chase down. For sure, be absolutely, positively crystal clear in your contract for the fundraising company, exactly who's paying for what, exactly what you're getting, like everything. Have it all spelled out. And like I said, if it's not in there already, go ahead and add it. You can totally mark up, even if it's totally printed off of the computer and nothing's handwritten. You bet your bottom you can take your pen and write in there. And I would actually, when you're sitting there with the fundraising rep, I would be like, hey, so I don't see this mentioned, so I'm going to add in here that we are splitting the cost of prizes. Go ahead and note that in. It'll save yourself trouble in the end. So just to kind of summarize here, for 2018, here's what I'd like to see you do for fundraising. I want you to pick something that is profitable for your group, that is easy for you to manage and administer, and that makes you tons of money. So keep those 3 things in mind when you're picking out a fundraiser, that you actually have to have all 3 to have a good fundraiser. Otherwise, you can make a ton of money, but if it's a huge pain and a lot of work, then is it really worth it? Perhaps not. So really keep that in mind. So, alrighty. So I'm about done with this topic today. I haven't seen any questions pop up. Let me just check on the computer real quick to see if anybody has it. Let me look one other place. And this, of course, is going to take a long time. But so let me tell you what I want to talk about next week. Next week, I do want to talk about the incentives, because there is for sure a right way to incentivize people in fundraising and a wrong way. And you'll get way more participation if you do it the right way. So for sure want to make sure that you do it that way. Okay, sweet. Doesn't look like anybody has questions, so that's a good thing. So here's what I want to do next. If you do have questions, I'm going to continue the conversation in the Facebook group. So if you are not a member, go ahead and sign up or request to join. It looks like 3 people want to join, so I should go let them in the group. Again, the name of the group is PTA, PTO Superstar Leaders. We'll continue the conversation there. You can pop any questions and we'll chat in there. So until next week, have a great week, and just remember what we talked about, or what I talked about before you sign your fundraising contract. So take care, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.